be your own hunter. So the book covers sighting in a rifle, different kinds of rifles. I purposely excluded the semi-automatic rifle because I wanted to keep the book within the price point of what most people can afford. A semi-automatic will certainly do the job for hunting, but a bolt action is the one that's used most often. And a bolt action rifle, it can have a magazine like this, or it can have there's just a myriad of ways to feed a bolt action, right? A magazine, a clip, and then there's other ways. And it's got basically you're going to eject and load each round manually, but it is the most popular for hunting. And then you want to have a good scope. I'm actually about to do a trip that I will record and put on my YouTube channel, where I'm going to actually show up to this guy who uses all kinds of high-tech hunting devices and rifles and ammunition. But I'm going to show up with my dad's bolt-action Ruger with like a $40 scope on it on purpose, right? Because I want to contrast the fact that, yeah, you can go buy all the technology and that's cool and it makes hunting easier, but you can still get away with doing the same damn thing with a rifle that my dad used when he was a kid. So I wanted to keep it in the price point. So you got bolt action, lever actions, and a couple other rifles I mentioned in that chapter. But obviously that is going to be your main tool for hunting. Obviously getting into other forms of hunting like bow hunting, for example. I thought about adding it, but I figured I'd save it for later, mainly because bow hunting is a totally different animal in itself. It relies heavily on camouflage, and you've got to look at all 5 of your senses and what they're broadcasting to animals, the big one being scent. And it's a very, very technical and tactical sport, if you will, bow hunting. Whereas hunting with a rifle is more like it's where you start in the hunting world, right? You can set back further. You don't have to worry so much about camouflage, and you still get to harvest meat at the end of the day. So I kept that chapter very simple, very basic, with intentions to get into more details maybe at a later date. Moving into be your own power grid. Now, a lot of the stuff mentioned in there was a little difficult for me to just bring in here, like solar panels and stuff like that. But one of my favorite parts of be your own power grid is the geothermal stuff, right? I mean, who would have thought that if you dig 6 to 8 feet down, it's a nice 55 degrees all year around, no matter where you are on the planet, unless of course you're near a volcano or something. But 55 degrees is the standard for most parts of the world if you dig 6 to 8 feet below the surface, the frost line. Okay. And then using PVC piping, right? You can cut, let's say 1 to 2 inch lengths, elbow joints, T-joints, and create a PVC pipe grid, right? And then on that grid is an intake, if you will. And then on the other end of the grid is your exhaust. Okay. And you can buy these little cheap solar fans that will fit into a PVC pipe. And then you put them in directional, right? So you'd want the intake side to pull the ambient air in, and then you would want the fan arranged on the exhaust side so that it pulls the air through the pipes and into, let's say, your home. So anyway, once you get that grid built, once you've dug a 6 to 8 foot trench, that is the same square footage of the PVC pipe grid you build, you lay it down in there and you bury it 6 to 8 feet below the surface. And sticking out will be 2 different pipes, okay? One will be your intake, one will be your exhaust. Your exhaust is connected to your home or your shed or whatever that you're wanting to climate control. And then Your input then has the fan inside, solar panel. It's turning all the time. It's pulling in, let's say, 100-degree weather. And as it gets pulled into that PVC pipe grid that you've built, it gets cooled off. And then the fan that's hooked up to your exhaust and pushing into your shed or to your home will now get cool air, right? And 55 degrees probably doesn't sound too warm unless you live way up north. The 55 degrees sounds just fine. So you aren't going to get 55 degrees out of it. You're probably going to get, the test that a family that I interviewed did is they had 120 degree weather, and they were able to use their geothermal PVC pipe grid, and it cooled. Once it went through the grid and came out through the exhaust side, it was cooled to about 60, 65 degrees. And that is 100% free climate control. But it is my favorite part of the Be Your Own Power Grid. And I think it's interesting why it's really not out there as much as you would like. Probably because, it's so free that there's a lot of companies out there that wouldn't be able to make anything off of it other than sell the pre-made or prefabricated kits that I've seen. But it's worth looking into if you've got the ability and the square footage outside your home to do it. So that's Be Your Own Power Grid. PVC pipe glue, elbow joints, T-joints, and then, of course, 2 solar-powered fans, which are like $30-$40 on Amazon. Be Your Own Protector. If the revolver style isn't your thing, then of course there's semi-automatic options. This one is a Glock lower with shadow systems, barrel, titanium nitrate, and then of course the slide is ported and grooved. The barrel is dimpled, and then I've got a red dot on here, which this one's 9mm. It too is great for home protection. We get into a little bit of that in there in the Be Your Own Protector. Obviously, handguns and they take training. You've got to stay up on your skills, no doubt about it. I also added in there, of course, shotgun. A shotgun is great. It's kind of the further away you are from the target, it becomes an area weapon. So keep that in mind, right? Those BBs that come flying out start out all together and then they spread out over distance. So you have to, obviously take that into consideration when you pull the trigger. The other thing I would also bring up is frangible rounds. Frangible rounds have become popular. They're very popular for us in the military during close quarter battle. You don't want your rounds to go through walls and potentially kill a hostage. So the rounds break up on impact. That's ideal to have for home protection loaded into your gun. So that way a round doesn't go through sheetrock and kill a family member. So a lot of that stuff is covered in that chapter. And of course you cannot make these primary tools when you talk about being your own protector. So there's just some ideas. And like I brought up in the book, people get hung up on the type of gun, the caliber, and all of that stuff. All I ever tell people is bullet placement, bullet placement, bullet placement.
You're listening to Can You Survive This Podcast? Thanks for tuning in. Please make sure to subscribe, rate, and share on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your favorite shows.